overlay. That's what he led me to believe, but I have actually scoured the Heritage Victoria website this weekend without any success whatsoever, but I'm happy to be corrected on that. Gillian?
It may well not be listed, but the fact is, it is heritage, because while we see this happening now everywhere with developments, Clifton Springs was amongst the first. Therefore, the structure of the roads and the fountain, the gateway, actually becomes significant in the history of the social development. Now, whether it's failed or not is irrelevant, but there has to be, whether that has actually begun to happen, because we're in a position now to look back and see how common these housing estates are, and it's just taken for granted that that type of embellishment is going to happen. But Clifton Springs was actually among the forerunners of that. That's what gives it heritage overlay. I would be bitterly opposed to it being removed for that reason, but how it's used I think is open to discussion, but we definitely need to look at it from the point of view of heritage and the development of building in this region.
Anybody else like to have a say or hasn't had a say yet? Bruce? Peter?
Yes, I'd just like to say that I think any suggestion that it be restored as a fountain is out at this stage, in my view, completely out. I think we just forget that option.
Raising again.
Well, the problems of water generally, and I mean, I think if we start pumping again, we're going to run into the trouble that in dry times there's going to be little water because of evaporation. I just don't think we can rely on that anymore. I think to turn it into some sort of a decorative art piece, something that's a bit different, is the way to go. I don't know, I haven't the answer, but I think there must be possibilities. And as you said, in my involvement with the Friends of the Ballerine Rail Trail, I've seen over the years what's been achieved there through a volunteer group and what they've done. Now, I'm not saying that this is an identical situation, I don't think it is, but I think if we were able to form some sort of a volunteer group, once we decide what we're going to do and keep that alive, I think we could do an awful lot there, and I think there's enough local interest and pride, as you can see by the number of people who turned up, that you would be able to get that sort of support. The other thing I'd just like to throw in, our group, the Friends of the Rail Trail, we were nominated for a Keep Victoria Beautiful award late last year, and a couple of our people had to go up to the MCG. There was a big dinner there one night and awards were handed out, and we were disappointed that we finished up being one of the 5 finalists, but we didn't get an award. But what was interesting, that the body that got the award for the group that we were nominated in were a volunteer group that had done work at the Patterson Railway Station in Melbourne. Now, I don't know if anybody is familiar with that or not, but I have been up to have a look at that. And it's interesting because what they've done there, they've taken a pretty ugly, largely concrete railway underpass, the road, Patterson Road going to the railway, and it's like all those underpasses, it's been vandalised, and even without being vandalised, it gets dirty and looks pretty unkempt. But these people have put a lot of effort in it. I'm not saying we should replicate what they've done, but I think it's a good example to try and pick up and follow. And what they have done, they've created literally hundreds of faces and little artworks in mosaic, and it's just fantastic what they've done. And it comes up beautifully in photos, and there's all sorts of different themes incorporated into each of these little artworks. There might be historical, there might be something to do with current social issues or whatever. But it's really a one-off piece that's worth having a look at if anybody's up that way, and I would have looked at it a few months ago, and I was very impressed with it.
Patrick, you might like to speak about the meeting that was held here almost a year ago?
Sure. Hello folks, my name is Patrick Hughes. I'm the Secretary of the Drysdale and Clifton Springs Community Association. Some of you know me, the rest of you are more lucky. As Anne said, the Community Association's been working with SpringDale for some time now, not just on the fountain, but on a broader programme which we're calling Streetscape to Artscape, which is a programme to install public art in our towns, public art that reflects the personalities, the ideas, the values and the ambitions of the people who live here. So the fountain would be the first site in a series of such sites. It is council-owned. There is a degree of heritage protection on the site, and so it's unlikely that we'd be able to demolish the site, even if we wanted to. I've not met anybody who does yet, apart from a building contractor who will remain anonymous. And certainly people here don't seem to be interested in demolishing the site, which brings us back to either we try and repair it as a fountain again, and as people have said, that could be a bit dodgy in terms of water, but let's not rule that out for the time being. Another alternative is to keep the structure, so we keep the heritage people happy, but turn it into some form of public art exhibit. More of that in just a second. What I think would be useful from tonight is if we got a group of people together who were in the first instance happy to talk to officers and councillors from the council about what's going to happen to this council-owned public asset. It's been going on too long now. It is falling apart because of neglect, and it is being neglected partly because it's in Clifton Springs, not on Eastern Beach. And so the first thing would be to get officers and councillors together and say, right, what's going to happen to this? Something's going to happen to it, and here are some ideas that have come out of community consultations. As Anne said, last year, November, several of us got together and had a sort of, if you like, a pre-meeting meeting, or a meeting about meetings. You get like that in a community association after a while. And a number of ideas were floated around. Two of the important ones that I'd like to bring out tonight were firstly, to try to redesign the structure and to use glass in its redesign. Now this might sound silly, it sounded silly to me, because, you know, your average window. But we're talking here about very thick pieces of toughened glass. Why are we mentioning glass at all? As some of you may know, recently we had the 3rd annual Festival of Glass, on a very hot day, which thousands of people attended, 3rd year in a row. We have lots of glass artists and artisans in the area drawn to the festival. We have new ones starting up as a result of the festival. We're beginning to get a reputation in the area as a centre for glass art and craft. Redesigning the Clifton Springs fountain would give us an opportunity to create a major piece of public art using glass. I'm not going to go into details about design because frankly I haven't got any. But we do have people who have been working with glass for a long time, both as artists and craftspeople, and also industrially, to help us with the practicalities of using glass. One of the ideas that came out of that discussion was to have a major pillar of thick, toughened glass, which you could see the bay through, and on that pillar, or perhaps embedded in it, a series of signs and symbols representing the history of the area, and perhaps also some indication of its possible future. So that's one possibility. Some sort of glass sculpture, structure, call it what you will, built as part of reclaiming our public piece of art here. Another idea that could go alongside that is to ensure that whatever redesign comes about reflects our shared history, black and white, in the Bellarine, reflects our shared ideas about multiculturalism, about welcoming all newcomers, and the idea of putting the signs and symbols in glass would be one way of going about that. So, to summarise then, we've had some discussions about designs. They're all still up for grabs. We've got the council to deal with, because it owns the property, and because it's heritage. We've also got a track record, however, of getting some movement from councillors on issues. And I'll close by saying what I said at the beginning. I think a way forward would be to get a group of us together, a smaller group than this, although we could all meet if you like, to go to council, officers and councillors, and say, this has been going on too long, let's get something done, here are some ideas.
Good.
Would it be possible to get some grants to help with the cost?
Should we?
Yeah.
Government grants.
And I think that's what, by having a consolidated voice and a consolidated idea, that then we can move forward to do that. So be it through, there are art grants, there are counsellor grants, there are other wider grants that come with maybe more money attached to them as well. So
Can I just add to the list there? There's also money available from developers. Developers have to pay a certain amount to the council to fund infrastructure in the area. If we got some of that money, we could get some of our infrastructure back from dilapidation.
And that's why it's so important that I believe for us to have an art plan for the whole area. If we had have had that in place, it would have meant that we could have taken our ideas to the developers who've put the art in the new part of what's now Curlewis. So there's been 10 pieces of art now put in there that David Fitzsimmons now has to try and use his budget to maintain. And so that's 10 pieces of art that has been planned by a developer with little consultation with our community, which is a shame.
I find a group like this,
Yes?
I guarantee you, if we were to storm into their council meeting at this group, I bet you they'd listen to you. Because that's what used to happen in the council I worked for. If people want to do it, they get a group and they'd storm the council meeting until such time as the councillors agreed to meet with the group and some of the officers.
I don't think we've got any problems with them meeting with us, because I think Lindsay showed that by trying to meet with people, maybe a little bit before we were ready to meet with him last December. I think he's shown good intention of trying to do something. I think it's up to us to actually have an idea, and that we all are as happy as we all possibly can be with whatever idea it is that we put forward. Diane, did you want to say something?
I was just going to ask a question, and so what sort of support could we actually expect from Lindsay Ellis as councillor?
As I said, I believe that he showed his hand by calling the meeting, and although, you know, it was very short notice, I believe that he is quite interested in doing something in Clifton Springs area. That is the edge of his ward boundary, but he does live in Port Arlington, and I think he would be very, very happy to do something to make the residents of Clifton Springs happy with him.
So does it fall into Corrigal, or does it?
It's actually midstream, because it's on the road. It actually is subdivided. It's actually midway between both of them. So it falls in Rod's area and it falls in Lindsay's area. So we should really have both of them to work together with us. Yeah. Yes. No, I believe that, Peter.
But I think we've got
Whether we've got a
two
chance
good
in
prospects
doing
there
that,
with those councillors.
I do believe it.
You know, Rob McDonald's always been very approachable and very helpful and listens to ideas. Lindsay Ellis is obviously out to make up for what hasn't been done in the past in regards to Corrigal, and he's going all out at the moment. I saw him down at Port Arlington with the mayor at the weekend, and you know, he's doing a lot of it. No, it's not, but it's his area, Corrigal, and he's shown an interest in it already, as Anna's just said.
Because it was third highest priority, and it was something that was maybe an easy fix, I think. But we need to be convinced, you know, we need to be happy with the fix, and whether it's easy or not easy, we need to be, I think, as a community, happy with what goes forward.
Come the next council election, that area